Oh, the moon has come, the day is done, the night has covered up the sun. I have stood so often before you to pray, but I wonder, oh Allah, tell me what did I do today? Did I remember the words of Al-Fatiha? Did I take time to thank you for all that I have? Did I call on you to guide my way? Tell me what did I do today?
Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Welcome to another episode of Back to Basics. We have with us our guest in the studio, Dr. Mamdouh Mohamed. Dr. Mamdouh, welcome.
Welcome. I have the pleasure to attend your episode.
Barakallah feekum. I'm your guest as always, Abdul Saeed. Dr. Mamdouh is a welcomed guest in the studio. For those of you who don't know, he's a former professor at Johns Hopkins University. He's also worked in over 7 universities across the globe, and he is currently the director for Arrow for consulting and training, and he has traveled extensively from the far east, as far as Indonesia, to the far west, as far as the United States, traveling and lecturing in the fields of education and da'wah. Dr. Mamdouh, the topic today that we would like to discuss is related to the different types of educational curriculums that exist, and how some of them are more teacher-centered and how some of them are more student-centered. What's the difference, first of all, and which do you prefer and why?
First of all, we're talking about classroom. Classrooms, some of them are teacher-centered and some of them are student-centered.
Okay.
The traditional, although I don't like to usually to use the word traditional,
Okay.
The method that's based on teaching and the teacher is the center of the classroom. The teacher is the king or the queen of the classroom. You find almost the teacher is talking about 99 or 95% of the time. And the students are good listeners. They listen most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, that their participation is very limited. This method was spread across the whole globe because the teacher is the one who does everything. So the teacher is the one who writes on the board, the one who introduces the class, the one who teaches the lesson, and the students are either listening or some of them, sometimes they are taking some notes from the lecture. And the teacher was the main source of information. The teachers are the recipient of knowledge. They are spoon-fed. They've been lectured by the teacher, so all the time they are listeners. With the new changes in the concept of education, and we mentioned them in one of the episodes when we said that there's some lessons that's based on knowledge, some lessons are based on skills, and some lessons are based on understanding. Mm-hmm. And with the advancement of technology in the whole world now, things had changed drastically, even to the level of reverse. I, as a trainer in my company, usually give some teachers this way of judgment, how to judge the lesson. Is it teacher-centered or student-centered? We divide the teachers and we distribute them to observe the teachers at a certain school. And we tell them that in the beginning you come and look at this teacher from the window of the class. Just look 1 minute and see who is doing the work. Is it the teacher or the student? Then go to the other classes and see the other teachers and do the same thing and come back after 10 minutes to the same class to see whether the teacher is talking or the students are talking.
Yeah.
And then after other 10 minutes, you do the same thing. In the 3, if the teacher is talking, that means this gives you an idea.
Chances are the teacher is the one doing the majority of the talking.
Teacher-centered, class.
Yeah.
And if we do 20 classes with 20 different teachers are observing what's going on here and there, you can say very frankly and openly, this school is teacher-centered classroom.
Okay.
This is not a good sign. I'm saying it again, this is not a good sign.
Okay, you're saying it's not a good sign, so that means already from my first question.
Yeah.
So you are saying that a student-centered learning is the better approach.
Absolutely.
Okay, why is that?
Now, let's say that the teacher is teaching some skills.
Yes.
Right? And we know that skills can be learned by practice.
Yeah.
And the students have no room for practicing. So what is going on now? They are learning something that should be done practically, right? By just mere listening to the teachers.
Yeah.
So it's passive learning. Let's say the teacher is teaching swimming.
Okay.
Right? So the teacher is talking about the steps of swimming. Step number 1 is so and so and so. Step number 2, and he mentioned 20 steps, and the students memorize the 20 steps.
Yeah.
Take the students and put them in the sea or in the
Hopefully not the
swimming
sea.
pool.
Put them in a baby
Tell
pool
me what
first.
is going to happen.
They're going to
No
try to
student
remember
is
this.
going to learn,
remember
right?
the steps.
Some of them perhaps are dead by now. Yeah. So if the class is based on the teacher, he's the king, he's doing everything, the students are doing nothing.
Yeah.
The most important thing for us is to see the outcome of the class. The outcome of the class is to see the students are talking, or the students are explaining, or the students are doing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So if the students are doing any of these, so they are the center of the class. And that's what we are hoping for. In the past, the teacher considered himself the only source of knowledge, and he just disseminates knowledge and lectures, and the students are passive learners.
Yeah.
And that's why the quality of the graduates in the past is totally different from the quality of the people who are graduating nowadays. One of them can do almost everything, and in the past they were passive. They graduate, they go to their workplaces or to the factories or to the hospitals, and really they are missing a lot of practical things. That's why they need to go to school again and take some diplomas in practice, right?
Yeah.
Look at doctors, for example. The students who study medicine,
Yeah.
they usually stay 4 to 5 years studying. Most of the study is theoretical.
Yeah.
Then after that, they take 2 to 3 or 4 years sometimes, in some cases, staying in hospitals, practicing what they have learned before.
Yeah. Can you imagine a surgeon just having read and taken
Absolutely.
theoretical?
Try to imagine a surgeon.
I don't imagine you'd want him in your operating room.
Yes. And he's operating on who? On your father. So it's a very dangerous situation. That's why the shift that happened from focusing on the teachers, zooming in the camera on the teacher, now it changed it into zooming the camera on the students.
What do you think helped to develop the focus change from teachers to student-centered classes?
Because many things. The concept of education has changed, as we mentioned earlier.
It's evolved.
Moved from knowledge only to knowledge and concepts and skills. This is one factor. There are many other factors, right? One of them is the quality of the graduates. The people who graduate from any educational system was very passive and was very weak.
Okay.
Yeah. And really, I advise people, and I hope the audience would focus on this. I advise people to go to new doctors, new graduates. We have been trained, and we've got used to that we go to a very experienced teacher. That means who has been working as a doctor for
Generally,
20, 30 years, and we think that this is something positive.
we think the years automatically mean a better person or a more
Absolutely.
knowledgeable person.
The new graduates have other skills, particularly the skill of what? Of research. They research. They know what is happening in the world now and see the best of it, and they do that. Unlike the people who don't make search, they live in the past. They don't know what's happening. You do an operation, get an operation done on your body,
Yeah.
and after just few months, you find now they changed the method. There are new methods
Because they
everywhere.
learned a better, more appropriate method. And
Absolutely. Yes, the world is advancing and people are working here and there. So now if you take the same thing, the same way that you got this operation on you now, and you try to use it now, it's almost obsolete.
It's like I gave the same comparison before. I mentioned in something like programming, right? If you look at a programmer who has 10, 20 years of experience, but he's still working with the same programs he was working from 10, 20 years ago, there's absolutely zero benefit in today's application.
Absolutely.
You're going to get a DOS or Windows 3.1 program.
And it makes a big difference. The difference between one version and another,
Yeah.
it's the difference between the East and the West.
Yeah, because they're always refining them, finding
Always
new bugs.
there's something new. So one of the main things that we focus on education now is the skill of research. And we do this with students when they are young. Even in KG, they can make research. Just small search on Google, and they would find some results by themselves.
That's interesting, though, is that when we were younger, we used to have to do our research the more old-fashioned, manual way, which was going to a library, getting a membership, looking for the reference of the book we're looking for, take it out, read through books and books and books. And this really developed our knowledge in a way that was very natural. You would look for one thing, and you would come across hundreds of things. Nowadays, because of technology, obviously, things are at the push of a button. So don't you think that maybe children right now, instead of actually doing the research and gaining more knowledge as they do it, they're basically being fed the answer as quickly as possible. So they type something on Google, they go instantly to Wikipedia, copy-paste the answer, and no actual knowledge was given to them.
It's because of the huge amount of knowledge now, it becomes almost impossible to find a person who knows that. And that's why they said that if you learn the skill of knowing where to get the knowledge, that's much, much better than if you know the knowledge itself, because it's always available to you. You can get it at any time, whenever you need it. And instead of putting it here all the time, and you don't need to carry it all the time. So Mr. Google or Sheikh Google is carrying it for you, holding it for you, and you can go.
That's an interesting point you brought up.
Which is?
You brought up Sheikh Google.
Yeah.
So we're going to, after the break, inshallah, we're going to get into the Islamic aspects of this type of research and this type of knowledge.
We can do that. But anyway, the skill of research is so important nowadays, right? And it gives you, not only now, because of the advancement of technology as well, you can find that even an operation, and instead of you reading about it, now you can see it by your own naked eye.
Yeah, you can see it recorded
online. You see how it is done now? It's just, I remember that I presented one of these operations, surgeries, that was about putting a nail in the shoulder of a person.
Okay.
59 seconds, the whole operation.
SubhanAllah.
59 seconds. Try to imagine that you can see it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. So it gives you a lot of information in a very limited time. Try to imagine if you try to do the same thing in the past, how many hours, if not how many days, you can get the same thing that you get now.
MashaAllah. Inshallah, we'll continue this discussion, but right after the break. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
A time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, he says, on all who spend in good cause.
It's welcome again from me, from your host Ismail Bullock, and from your host
Gabriel Romani. The parents have to encourage their kids to get married, and at the same time support them.
What many people don't understand is that seeking knowledge in itself is ibadah. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu says, لَأَنْ أَطْلُبُ الْعِلْمَ سَاعَةً أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِنْ أَلْفِ رَكَعَةٍ. That I seek knowledge for an hour is better and more beloved than 1,000 rak'ah, which means 1,000 rak'ah.
The real meaning of La ilaha illallah is not there's no God but God. La ma'bud bihaqqin illallah. That is, if you want to note it down, that is the real meaning of La ilaha illallah.
there is none worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
I remember as a Christian, when I was a Christian before, they have this whole issue of your cross, you have to wear your cross, this will protect you, and if it breaks, something wrong will happen to you, and the icons, and put an icon in your wallet.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and welcome back to the program, Back to Basics, with our special guest, Dr. Mamdouh Mohamed. Dr. Mamdouh, right before the break, you were discussing how people can start to research things on their own, and how the knowledge of how to research and from where to get your information is more valuable today than actually having memorized the information yourself. People are no longer expected to be encyclopedias of knowledge because they have quick access to online encyclopedias. Right. How does this fit in with the Islamic aspect of this when people want, let's say, fatwa, or they want religious verdicts, or they want to learn about what's halal and what's haram? Isn't it kind of dangerous for them to just trust in Sheikh Google to give them the right answer, especially considering Sheikh Google's not Muslim?
Yeah. Now they are, those people, whether they are called Google or something else.
Bing.
Yeah. Search engines.
Yes.
They try to find relevant information about the topic that you selected. Mm-hmm. They are not giving you authentic information. They are trying to give you all the information that are available, and it is your job or your teacher's job to guide you from the very beginning that the good, authentic sources are these links.
Okay, so for example, if you're looking for something medical, even in medicine, obviously you should be careful. You search something in Google, you come across some shady blog website that anybody could have written in their basement. Yeah. Obviously, you're cautious.
You have to go through another step, which is selective process or filtering process. You have to do the filtering. Okay. And again, few tips can make you a specialized one. Okay. The teacher who is specialized in this area, he will give you some tips to avoid taking wrong information.
Yes.
So it's not that difficult now, but the research process is much easier than in the past.
Oh yeah, going to a library and looking through hundreds of books.
Absolutely. Okay. Because in the past you would find some information,
and you're limited to what the library has to begin with.
Not even before the library. Remember the research issue. Even at the time of early scholars of Muslim, they do the research by traveling themselves.
Traveling for months.
They travel, from one place into another. Sometimes it takes a few months to reach the other place and to meet personally with the people and to ask them and to verify this and then to come back again. So it used to take long time. Yeah.
Okay, barakallahu feekum. Going back to the main subject about teacher-centered and student-centered. We understand that student-centered classrooms are the better norm, that they should overtake teacher-centered classrooms because they offer more practical solutions to the problem of learning. Could you give some other examples of how we can make...
Okay. I would tell you that how to know that, even if you're not a specialized teacher.
Okay.
I'm saying this, I want every parent to learn from this. You visit a classroom, right, and you see the teacher is doing this, so you understand that he's doing most of the job, so this lesson is no longer fitting, is no longer practical with the new trends of teaching. If you enter a class and you find that the students are involved in activities, they are involved in group work, they are involved in doing one project. Each 3 or 4 or 5 or 2 students are involved in a project that's different from the other 3 or 4 students doing another project.
Yeah.
So the issue of doing projects, doing group work, doing activities, right? Doing some collective or group tasks.
Yeah.
This is a sign that this class is a healthy class and it develops this quality in the students. Also, relevant to this issue is the group work. You know that the group work helps students to graduate, to work well together, which is something we are missing.
It's a skill for the future too.
Absolutely. And now we found that one of the, I think, in a computer company, the director of the computer company wanted to hire a new engineer. And a lot of people applied for the job. Then he selected a basketball player for the job.
Because he's good at teamwork.
The people who worked in the company, they asked him, how could you do that? We needed an engineer. We didn't need a basketball player. He said, you're right. I knew this. But what I'm trying to tell you that the amount of knowledge that I want from this engineer equals 6 months. I will take him and I will give him this information and this knowledge and this training in 6 months. But what we are missing in our company and in many companies is how to put people together to work together collectively with this team spirit.
Yeah.
And he said that this guy already got this one. And this is the most difficult skill that we're looking for.
Yeah.
So you see how
to motivate other
think.
people, how to work together. Yeah.
And this is a product or a sub-product of student-centered classroom. Okay. That's why the whole world is waiting to see more and more student-centered classroom than teacher-centered ones.
Do you think that most of the world has adopted student-centered classrooms, or at least most of the developed world?
Most of the advanced, yes.
Okay.
And the other countries, even the developing countries, some of them have taken some steps and they are moving to this.
Okay.
Yes, and I think this is a very good advice for teachers and for parents. We ask the parents not all the time to do the job by themselves. The mother in the kitchen, she shouldn't do the job by herself. She should collect some of her sons and daughters to do the job. She gives them guidance, she gives them guidelines, and they have to follow these steps in order to come up with a product.
Okay, barakallahu feekum. Would you say, since obviously as Muslims we look at the source of everything that we do from the Quran, from the Sunnah, and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, because he's, as you mentioned in several episodes, the best of teachers. Would you say that student-centered or interaction from the students, those who are learning from the Prophet ﷺ, existed in his lifetime? And can you give some examples?
I would say, subhanallah al-azim. First of all, I would like to speak about this issue of everything should be from the Quran and Sunnah. This is in terms of the religion, not necessarily everything in life you take from the Quran and Sunnah.
No, I meant in relation to teaching, because you mentioned teaching and the best of teachers of the Prophet.
You can teach cooking in the class. So it's not necessarily that I would find the ingredient that I'm talking about was mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah. I know that you understand.
You know what I mean.
But I wanted to clarify this matter for people. Because some people are very sensitive to this issue all the time, Quran and Sunnah, Quran and Sunnah.
No, when it comes to worldly matters, obviously it's not necessary that...
Yes. This is. So now, even these issues, the issue of collective work, we've seen our scholars in the past, they used to do something similar to this. Even the concept of research, group research. Yeah. So I find that a professor is supervising and is asking this one to do the part of the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca, the other one is doing the part of the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Medina, and they compile it together to come up with one product. So this is already had been done by our scholars, but perhaps they did not understand, or they did not use the terms that I'm using, or the terms that are used nowadays, but they use the same concept with different terms.
Certainly a collection of ahadith would also be included.
Of course.
Different sahaba memorizing different ahadith, and different companions and tabi'een collecting them and combining them and so on.
And then classifying them. The classification is another thing. So yes, of course, the Muslim scholars have done this, and I encourage the person. I've seen that some Syrian people, some Syrian families, the parent, particularly the mother, used to give the clothes to her daughter. She was about 4 or 5 years old, and she would ask her to classify them. Here, on this shelf, you put the whatever that belongs to female, and this one is for the male, and this one is for children, and this one is for the grown-up. This is a classification, and this develops the child to develop in their thinking that, yes, we should classify things, even classifying pictures, classifying fruits.
Or classifying, for example, for a child especially, having them classify their toys. Exactly. Yes. You get a different colored box.
Absolutely.
Their cars go here, the puzzles go here, and so on.
This is one of the skills that we need to see at school and at home as well. In the past, very few teachers thought of this, whether Muslim teachers or not.
Yeah.
But people were not focusing on this. When you find smart teachers are usually doing this.
Yes.
Even if they have not studied.
Even if it's not officially mentioned as this.
But we no longer focus on just the smart teachers. We want all the teachers in the world to be smart.
Well, because we want all the students to be smart.
So the way to make them is to educate them.
Yeah.
And the same thing is applicable to parents.
So teaching a child and teaching them new methods and new ways of interacting and working together is more or less a plausible task. Why? Because the child's mind is fresh and ready to absorb knowledge and understanding and try new things. How are we supposed to train hundreds, if not thousands or millions of teachers who are much older and they already have their own methods and their own styles?
I think saying that they have their own method is the most difficult thing because we're doing two things. We are doing the process of erasing, undoing, and then doing.
So it's sort of like having a cup before we can even fill in the new juice or whatever.
Yes,
we have to get rid of the old, let's say coffee, whatever.
Yes, but remember also as well, now it's much easier to teach those millions of teachers because we have the TV and we have the satellites, we can do one program very well done and the whole world can watch it.
Yeah.
So it's much easier now to teach the teachers than before.
So would you say that there are such programs that are in the works right now?
Of course. There are many educational programs that are available, and there are some channels that are specialized in the issues of teaching, and there are some channels that 24/7 they just show some of the good examples of teachings here and there from different countries, and you can learn a lot of this. In fact, this was one of my hobbies. I love teaching and I love to see different methods of teacher because no human being, no teacher, regardless how smart she is, has all the methods.
Of course not.
You have few methods, he has few methods, she has few methods, I have few methods, and I take from here and there. The whole world is in front of you. Yes. Try to imagine in the past you want to travel to Japan to see some new methods. How much it takes from you and how long does it take?
And if you survive the trip.
If you survive the trip and if you survive the cost of the trip in particular.
Yeah.
So now I think but opening the eyes for these, and there are many good examples, we call them success stories.
Yeah.
In some success stories, and I've seen this in some Arab countries, by the way, something that really is very good, you enter the class, you look here and there, and you don't find the teacher standing. You find the students are standing. 2 or 3 students sometimes one student is teaching the whole thing. He's doing the job of the teacher. And this is something very positive. It tells us the teacher has trained them to a very high level, to the degree that they reach the level of the teacher. In other words, the teacher is giving us a message. Those are my product. I am the one who made them to reach this level.
Yes.
So you see, the teacher is so proud of this, and we need a lot of this. And try to imagine that even when they are young students, they are playing the role of the teacher at this early years. Try to imagine after a few years
of having that same education.
Yes.
Yeah. Then they're going to grow up to not only be better teachers for their own children, but also better members of society in their communities.
And I advise the parents to know these things and to visit their schools and to give some tips.
How would you advise parents who don't view it as their responsibility to follow up and to see the school? They see it as, especially parents in some countries where they really rely on the private system, they think, I'm spending enough money on it, it should take care of itself.
Yeah, of course, this is a kind of irresponsibility, a social disease. They need to be responsible. They need to share what they have with the teachers. Some of the parents definitely are more specialized than the teacher, and if they share the knowledge that they have, of course, the one who benefits is what is their own students,
Yes.
their own children. They are going to benefit from these shared experiences.
Okay. Jazakumullah khairan. With that, we'll have to end today, unfortunately. But tune in for our next episode, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Oh, the moon has come, the day is done, the night has covered up the sun. I have stood so often before you to pray, but I wonder, Allah, tell me, what did I do today? Did I remember the words of Al-Fatiha? Did I take time to thank you for all that I have? Did I call on you to guide my way? Tell me, what did I do today? I have whispered to you as I made ruku, Subhana Rabbi Aladi. But was my faith bright or grey? Oh Allah, tell me, what did I do?